Yeah. Oh, what's up, dudes? How's it going? Haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. I hope you're recovering from the hangover of the U.S. elections. God, I could not, no matter who you voted for, you got to be psyched that the ads are gone. I didn't even live in a swing state, and my God, it was like just non-stop, non-friggin' stop in those last, 7 days. My kids, they were out so much, my kids noticed it. They're like, what is this nonsense? I'm like, it'll be over soon. It'll all be over soon. So I'm glad that's out of the way. I'm loving that new Kiss album. I know some people don't care for it. I kind of like it. I guess I'm in the minority, but Kiss is just one of those bands that I just love them so much that they were such a huge part of my childhood. Am I the only one that had a bedroom where every square inch was covered in Kiss something? Mostly Kiss posters, those big giant posters they had out for a while. The crazy thing is, I go on to eBay, and some of those posters I had, like the Gene one up like, here goes my pick, up like that, or the Paul Stanley one, he's got the Iceman like this, you know that one I'm talking about? They sell for hundreds of dollars now, at least $100, and it's amazing how those have really appreciated in value. I used to buy them for $2.50 down at my local booksmith. So I brought this on here because I just get so many requests to bring this guitar out. And I thought I'd bring it out and play this one today. I've got it playing really nice. Not like a lot of these fakes, and although I hate using the word fake because it's a very real guitar. This guitar is heavy and it's nice, So I think calling it a fake guitar isn't accurate. Let's call it a pre-branded branded copy, something like that. Counterfeit, though, again, I'm a little hesitant to call it counterfeit, and I'll tell you why. Counterfeit implies that you are trying to pass it off as real. They don't. They're right up front that it's a copy. If you counterfeit a $100 bill, what's the point if you're not trying to pass it off as real? Doesn't it just become artwork at some point? In fact, there's a guy that was doing that. He was really, really good at counterfeiting, and he'd been busted so many times. He would hand draw them. He could hand draw like a $100 bill, and then he would just go out and try and sell his artwork for $100. Right, so he'd essentially get it. Of course, it took him months to draw one. Not a very efficient process. So, counterfeit always implied to me that you're trying to pass it off as real. And I don't think anyone's trying to pass these off as real. Certainly not the guys on the Chinese websites. Which brings me to a couple of things. I should probably answer some frequently asked questions. The number one question I get is, where did you buy it? And I've answered a million times, and by a million I mean about 24. I bought it on Trade Tang. Trade Tang, DHgate, Alibaba. There's a whole bunch of sites out there you can buy them from. The guy I bought it for was named Dave. He is long gone. He disappeared in like fall of 2010 or like spring of 2010, something like that. He's no, like fall of 10, I think he was gone. So these guys, they're that place is like eBay, and they're like here today, gone later today. So they don't last very long up there, and then they're gone and they change their name, or they come back or they don't come back. Who knows? So if you went on there to buy one, you're on your own. I have no idea. I haven't bought a fake in, I don't know, well over a year. So I couldn't really tell you who to go to these days. Like a lot of things I do, I sort of go through periods of interest and then not so much interest. So for a while I was into antique maps. Yeah, seriously, antique maps. And I have a few antique maps of the Boston area and my local towns and stuff, maps that were created in the late 19th century, mid 19th century. It's interesting to see how the city evolved over the years, and how basically Back Bay was a swamp that they filled in up to the the Back Bay Highway, which is Storrow Drive now. And then I was into these for a little while, Chinese guitars. Then I was into fountain pens for a little while. Like a butterfly, my attention. What's it landing on today? And, like anything, I bought a half dozen maps, I bought a half dozen pens, and I bought a half dozen of these. And then by the time you get to like the fifth or sixth one, it's like, all right, on to something new. Now I'm bored with it. Now it's boring again. So, I bought these. And I bought this one. There's a kind of a little story on how I got started on this. I was looking for, as I've mentioned before, I'm going to get my water here. As I mentioned before, I had owned when I was a kid, when I was 14, I talked my dad into buying me an Ibanez Les Paul, which at the time I thought was a import Gibson, right? So I didn't realize Gibson and Ibanez were two completely different companies. So I was like, well, I'll buy the Ibanez. I'll buy the Japanese version. And it didn't have the diamond. It was after they were stealing the diamond, and now they were stealing like the gild, like tulip. Right, it was that one. And it was a custom. It had all the binding, bolt-on neck. And it was, and they'll call it a laminate, but it was essentially plywood. This is actually much better constructed than that old Ibanez ever dreamed to be. Because I've had this apart a bunch of times, and it's actually pretty nice. It's heavy. It's about 9.5 pounds. I'm sure if it was African mahogany, I brought it to a luthier pretty soon after I got it, and said, what do you think? He's like, well, the body looks like it's made out of mahogany. The neck is the fingerboard is absolutely ebony, and the hardware's kind of crappy. And the pickups are microphonic. I mean, you can, that's a bone pick. That's not metal, so it's not disturbing a. Hold on, let's do YYZ. And so I was looking online, and I came across one of these. I wanted to buy another Ibanez Les Paul, and my Ibanez Les Paul that I bought way back in the day had DiMarzio Super Distortions in it, which was pretty nice. The guy had pulled out the regular pickups and put DiMarzio Super Distortions in it. So I happened to see, this is about 3 years ago, I happened to see an Ibanez Les Paul from a guy in Massachusetts, and it had DiMarzio Super Distortions, and if I look closely, it wasn't mine. Mine actually had a crack that ran down the front. Didn't have the crack, so I knew it wasn't my guitar. But this guy, I was trying to buy the guitar from him, but he was just the biggest asshole on the planet. And he had it listed on, you could tell right away because he had it listed on Craigslist and eBay at the same time. That just tells me total asshole. If you're listing it on eBay and someone's bid on it, which someone already had, and there's no reserve, and the reserve has been met, or or the reserve is met, that's it. Deal done. You're obligated to sell that guitar when you're done. But if someone came along on Craigslist and gave him what he was asking for it on Craigslist, he would have sold it in a heartbeat. So I already know this guy is a jerk, even before dealing with them. So I bid on it. I bid like $295, and it sells for $305. I don't win the bid. I'm like, whatever. And I didn't give it another thought. And then the next day, he sends me a second chance offer. He's like, oh, the first guy was from out of the country, which was probably a lie. Again, this guy was just an asshole. And he said, so, you can just buy it, just, check out for your $295. And it was like $30 shipping. So I emailed him. I said, listen, $30 shipping. I actually live in Mass. Can I meet you somewhere? Where you from? Can I just meet you somewhere and I'll just buy it? And he emails me back, stop! Don't check out! Because, of course, he wants to say save the eBay fees. Don't check out! You could just meet me and give me the cash for it. So call my number. He gives me a phone number. So I call him up. And I gotta tell this guy is just a total asshole. And I was like, so, okay, you want to meet up. You're in Maynard. Where are you coming from? He's like, Maynard. It's like, all right, well, I'm coming from, like, the Dedham area. I go up 128, you come down Route 2. We'll meet you where 2 and 28. There's a big gas station there. I'll just meet you there. I'll check out the guitar as long as it's exactly how it looks online. I'll bring you $295. He's like, oh, $295, $305. Dude, $305, that's what that other guy was offering you. I was offering you $295. He's like, oh, I really got to get $305 for this guitar. I said, well, you're not getting it from me, bro. So figure it out. You're going to have to ask yourself, like I say often to, in my line of work, is that the hill you want to die on? $10? That what it's worth? So, he was like, well, I said, I'll tell you what, let's meet in the middle. I'll give you $300. That way you get to your magic 3 figure. And, you come down $5, I'll go up $5. I mean, I can't even believe we're fucking debating this. But I'm not giving you, just out of principle, I'm not giving you the fucking $10 more. Because, that's just the way it is. So, he was like, let me call you back. So, of course, he's not calling me back. Because, like I said, he's a total asshole. And, I see it, he lists it back up on eBay again. Wouldn't you know, of course, now I won't bid on it, because I'm like, I don't even know if I bid if he's even going to follow through with it. And, it sells for $295, which I was just laughing my ass off at. I was like, wow, that is hilarious. And who knows if he ever sold it or what he did. He probably sat back and went, I don't know if I want to sell it for that, and like never followed through with it, because, it was just, back then, I'm pretty sure you could still get negative feedback as a buyer. So people didn't leave feedback. Today, he would instantly get a negative feedback because the buyers don't get negative feedback. So they could, they could go, fuck you, you didn't sell me my guitar for the price, and they would get a big fuck you back, from the seller. So that was actually a really smart change by eBay, because it had a chilling effect on candid reviews of dealers. So I actually like that. So anyway, there I am with guitarless, and now I'm all hot on like getting an Ibanez guitar. So another one shows up on eBay, and it's in like mint condition, but the guy wants like $8.99. He's like, historic lawsuit. I'm like, actually no, the lawsuit model was before that. This is the post lawsuit model, and I've seen them sell for like $300. Like that seems to be what they're going for. And so, that was out of the question. But I'm sort of bitten with the bug, and I want to get something to sort of replace it. And just out of the blue, I don't know how it came up, but during a Google search to try and find an Ibanez Les Paul, a Chinese site came up, and I was like, huh? Like, those are awfully cheap prices. Let's what's going on here? And so it took a few weeks to sort of check it out because I'm, you know, cautious on that stuff. And finally, I was just like, you know what? I'll take a chance. And it was, this guitar was $295 delivered. So $215 for the guitar, $80 to ship it, $295 to my front door. But it was so much nicer than the Ibanez. Thicker body, ebony fingerboards versus rosewood, a set neck. The hardware is similar. This needs new hardware. These pickups are very check 1 2, check 1 2. Can you hear that come through? It's like, hold on, I'll get something where you really show it off. This one's a little hotter. Check 1 2. You see that comes to microphonic, right? That's because the windings on the bobbins aren't tightened down enough. Even if you did tighten it down, they would loosen just enough so that they vibrate. So what generally is done with a pickup is they don't dunk it in wax. The wax fills in all the gaps and prevents the coils, the wire wrapped around the bobbin, those coils, from vibrating. And so, but they don't do it. Now, I guess in their defense, I don't believe that the early burst puckers are potted either, right? I mean, that was sort of part of the sound, was that it was a slightly microphonic. But again, they were playing through clean amps. You know, those old burst buckers were played through clean amps. There wasn't a lot of distortion going on. And when you plug this into an amp with like a really heavy distorted sound, it's just a constant squeal. You know, of course, you don't hear it here because there's no live speakers going on. I'm running through my rig and directly into the camera, and, you know, there's just no live speakers going on. So you can hear, it's definitely a little microphonic. So, so I order this up, and the guy emails me about 2 weeks in. He says, you know, that color, it's just not in stock. I could have it made at the factory, but, you know, it's going to run you another couple of weeks. I was like, do it, which was actually kind of a mistake because they clearly just got like a black guitar or a white guitar, and they masked over it and shot it in cream. And when it showed up, you know, the edges are, you know, you can just clearly see where it's masked. And it was kind of yellow. I was like, what the hell is this? I sort of ordered a cream guitar and it showed up yellow. But a buddy of mine pointed out, he's like, well, it does kind of look more like Randy's. And that cheered me up. Well, that's not bad. You know, I guess it kind of does look more. And he's like, oh, yeah. He goes, don't sweat it. He goes, you know, it looks good. He goes, it's heavy. He goes, it's a nice guitar. He goes, for $295. He's like, you know, you really can't go wrong. And I was like, cool. So this one, unlike all the other copies I have, has the nibs at the end of the frets. They actually do the fret nibs. And I think I mentioned in the other video that it looked like the fingerboard had been scraped. That actually wasn't scraped. It was polish. They like polished the whole thing, and they had this like gobs of polish on here. And I think it looked to me like it was scraped, but when I buffed it out one time with some steel wool, it cleaned up pretty nice. In fact, it needs to be buffed again. I can see a lot of grime on the fingerboard. But the nibs aren't exactly the same like the Gibson. The Gibson nibs are rectangular, and these are very round. They're like a little round half moon. So they really can't be compared. And the gold on this is like practically sprayed on. I mean, just the slightest bit of touching and the gold comes off. So, you know, I mean, it's got some problems. Of course, you know, the screws aren't black. I mean, people point out the most ludicrous. They're like, I could tell right away because the screws aren't black. I was like, yeah, listen to those gold screws there. Oh, yeah, I see what you're talking about there, bro. You know, it's like the three, you know, they're like, you know, one guy was like, I said, he goes, you know, the headstock, the truss rod cover, it's got 3 screws. I said, look closely, it actually has 2 screws. He goes, yeah, but it's the wrong shape. I'm like, wow, is that what you fucking think about all day? The shape of the truss rod cover? Because, you know, I want to spend a little bit more time playing and less time checking out the dimensions of the truss rod cover. It just sounds a little ridiculous. You know, I suppose if I paid $2,000 for it, yeah, I'd be like, well, what the fuck? I want it to be just like it should be. But when you pay $200 for it, you know, $295 delivered, you're less discriminating, as they say. So, you know, the guitar was surprisingly nice, and I was a little bummed out by the color. So I said, you know what, I'll give them another chance, and that's when I got the Supreme, and I thought the Supreme was really nice. And then I was sort of bitten with the bug. But you know, like I said, I go through all kinds of stuff. You know, it's between the maps and this, and now lately I've been into like vintage Ibanez, which means Ibanez between, say, 87 and really no later than 93. Yeah, I prefer 87, 88, 89, even 90. It's starting to get a little old. 88 is really my year. I loved the 88 stuff. But so anyway, this showed up. I brought it to a luthier friend, and he said, yeah, no, it's mahogany, but it's definitely like Asian mahogany. He said, you know, if that was African mahogany, he goes, it'd be about a pound more, maybe 2 pounds more. And even though it's heavy, it's about 9.5 pounds. He goes, it would be pushing 10, 11 pounds if it was like a solid mahogany body on that. And it was African mahogany. So it looks like a maple neck. We looked under the truss rod. It looks like a maple neck. And a mahogany body, and it's pancake slabbed. In fact, the bottom pancake has got the groove routed in it, just like the real one does, you know, for the electronics to go through. He's like, that is how they do it. You know, he goes, it appears to be fairly well constructed. It's just the electronics and they could use a new bridge, maybe a nice new steel bridge on it, or brass bridge, really, brass, and you know, clean it up a little bit, you know, in terms of you know, sustain, and the pickups are definitely microphonic and a little out there. It's all, you know, between the electronics and the like the bridge and stuff. You know, it could definitely use some work. The tuners are funny. You know, of course the headstock is too small. The diamond is too small. If you look closely, one side of the keys is a little in, the other side is you know, a little out, right? So it's not really lined up. It's like you would think they'd have a template, but they don't seem to really have a template for it. So I wonder if they're just doing it by hand. But you know, for the most part, the thing was pretty good, and it got me sort of bitten with the bug, and I wound up buying about a half dozen more. I think you've seen every one, and you know, I just hadn't come on here and really played this one in a while, and I get a lot of emails. So let me address a couple of things on that. So people are always like, where'd you get it? And like I said, I bought it off a trade thing from a guy named Dave, and he's long gone on there, and you know, you're sort of on your own, you know. If you can't take a chance on $300, I don't know what to tell you. The other thing I've heard is that they're sort of slowing down, right? The whole thing is sort of coming probably to an end. I wouldn't know. I haven't bought one in so long. You know, I'm sort of so over that I couldn't really, you know, I couldn't really tell you what the current state of it is. Though I've heard that they're sort of on the way out. That it's gotten to the point where they won't brand them, or if they do brand them, they do something to... I'm not really sure. You know, you hear a lot of rumors, and believe it or not, some people actually lie because they have an agenda. So some people will say, yeah, right now, if you buy one, you know, the FBI will come to your house and they'll, you know, take your whole house from you. It's like, it's just complete nonsense. Here's the law, at least in the United States, about this stuff. If you sell or you trade or you deal in any way, yeah, that's illegal. If you buy, no. The law, the federal law, specifically targets the seller and not the buyer. So if you're the buyer, no. If you're the seller, absolutely. So that gets me to my next point. A lot of people ask me, can I buy your guitar? I don't want to deal with China. I would just rather buy yours. I think yours sounds really good. I already know what it sounds like. I just want to buy yours. Not going to happen. Because, you know, like I said, it's completely illegal to sell them within the U.S. borders. Technically I bought this one in China, right? I did a deal on a Chinese website, and the transaction takes place in China. The money is transferred in China. It's transferred to China. Then they pay their guy in China, and then it gets sent to me. So in a very real sense, this transaction takes place in Beijing. So here in the U.S., you know, there's really no excuse. You can't do it. And some people say, well, I just want to trade you. Certainly trading is okay, or if both sides say that it's fake, If everyone's agreement, that it's a copy, then what's the problem? Because it's illegal. You can't sell. Absolutely can't sell. End of story. Period. No but, or ifs. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's just the way it is. So I am never, ever, 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 ever selling any of these. Sorry. If you want one, you're going to have to pony up the money, go online, cross your fingers, and hope something shows up, and take the same risk I did. If you're looking for the fake, there's a whole bunch of stuff to look for. The wrong size head, the wrong size diamond, the nibs are round, they're not square. This is sort of like flattened, right? The whole thing has sort of a squished, like someone grabbed it and just pushed it a little bit this way, squished it down. The standards are more round, closer to the original than these are. The custom and the Supreme, they have that sort of squished top to it, but whatever. I'm about playing guitars that play nice, and this guy actually, plays pretty nice. And like all of them, it needed work. It came with the really high action. I lowered the action. I set up the intonation, and you got to rip the strings off it right away and put some nice new strings on. I think that Supreme video I did, that first one, I had the same strings on. Of course, they're going out of tune. It's like the guitar was like less than a day old, and people were like, "Aha! I knew it!" Like, calm down, It's so funny. At least I find it humorous. So, well, I would love to put like a set of, active pickups in this, like the Zach set or Blackouts or any one of those style active system, I think would be a good choice for this. Yeah, I could even put a set of DiMarzio Super Distortions in it, or some other pickup. I haven't done anything with it, and I don't feel a particular need to change anything until it's broken. So I probably won't change it until something is broken down on it. The binding is off, very thick. The other ones have a more accurate binding. Like the binding is supposed to be roughly the same size all the way through, and this that looks a little off. When my friend when Bobby was over and he had his Budokan, the Classic Custom, I noticed, was it the Classic Custom? I think it did. It had the really almost identical dots on the side, so that was one thing they sort of got right. But anyway, that's guitar. Let me see. I like the new Kiss. I know people go through a thing where they really hate that band, but I guess you could say that about any band, really. And I like that riff. It's like, hey. Kind of a pull-off. A, it's a C, but it's sort of double stop C. You don't hit the root. And then it's B, A, G. And then G, A. A, G. And then I think it's G. E, C, A. That's C. F. G. Then E. And then quickly C to A. I think the only other part is right, so it's C, G, A, C, D, G, G sharp, A. That's just G, A, C, A. Something like that. I could probably do a lesson on it at some point. Alright guys, that's it. Just coming to say hello, shoot the breeze. That's about that. Alright guys. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you real soon. Where's my remote? There it is. Have a good night. See ya.